Some of the most well-known and commonly reconstructed dinosaurs to all of science are the Dromaeosaurs, the slender bipedal relatives of birds, sometimes referred to as the Raptors. Like many dinosaurs, the Dromaeosaurs have undergone plenty of reconstructive change since their initial description in 1922 by William Matthew and Barnum Brown. Starting off as the same tail-dragging, large, lizard-like monsters as the other dinosaur groups, the Dromaeosaurs would undergo a significant change that would affect paleontology as a whole when Robert Bacher drew Deinonychus as a lithe, speedy predator. This would trigger the first dinosaur renaissance, where literally hundreds of species would be revised, allowing scientists to take a major step towards accuracy. Later, the links between dinosaurs and birds would be firmly established, placing the Dromaeosaurs close on the evolutionary family tree to the litany of feathered animals we know today. Not only are the Dromaeosaurs scientifically significant, they also play a huge part in popular culture today. The Jurassic World and Jurassic Park movie franchises are almost built around their oversized reptilian Velociraptors, and depictions of Dromaeosaurs can be found across all variants of media. To this day, Dromaeosaurs have graced our television shows, books, video games, and more, with many genera finding their place as common household names. In this video, we will be exploring the Dromaeosauridae in close detail, meeting individual genera one at a time in a similar manner to our video on the ceratopsians. This is a journey that will span millions of years and multiple continents, as we meet some of the most peculiar and yet evolutionarily familiar animals of the Mesozoic. Starting the video off with the very first Dromaeosaur to have evolved, we find ourselves in the early Cretaceous of Denmark in the mysterious forests of the Ugor Formation. Wooded European coastal regions formed the cradle of Dromaeosaur kind, and alongside these estuaries and lagoons, Dromaeosauroides would start one of the most awe-inspiring dinosaur legacies known to science. These early pioneers of the Dromaeosauridae family are thought to have stalked the beaches of ancient Europe, evidenced through the presence of scales within fossilized dung thought to belong to the dinosaur. These scales belong to the fish lepidotes, which were spearfished out of the water using a weapon that would define the Dromaeosaurs, their sickle claws on the second digit of each foot. Dromaeosaurs were adept hunters of fish, small vertebrates, and dinosaurs, and these early coastal regions would form the bases of the claws that were used to take down ceratopsians, ornithopods, and more in the late Cretaceous. Dromaeosauroides was large for a dromaeosaur, almost 3.5 meters in length from nose to tail. It was covered in a shaggy layer of filamentous feathers, which had no use for gliding or flying, but likely helped to keep the animal warm in the cooler winter months. Extended feathers were present on the forelimbs, which may have been colored with remarkable patterns to help the dinosaur signal or display to a mate or rival, with similar features present at the end of the tail. While Dromaeosauroides was the first of its kind to live, the family's titular Dromaeosaurus would be the first genera to make itself known to humankind in the context of the group themselves. The dinosaur, a slender, beagle-sized feathered theropod from North America, was described in 1922 and soon became the type species for its newly assigned family Dromaeosauridae. Ornithodesmus, a small bird-like animal which is now known to be a dromaeosaur itself, was discovered earlier in 1887, but at the time was believed to be an ancient species of bird. Dromaeosaurus was simply the first of its kind to be assigned the title Dromaeosaur. The dinosaur is known from the sediments of Red Deer River in Alberta, Canada, where its first specimens were collected by paleontologist Barnum Brown. Despite the fame of the dinosaur, its remains are fragmentary and partial, with much of the skeleton being inferred from closely related animals that are better known. On that first expedition, Barnum Brown discovered a partial skull and mandible, some teeth, fragments of the neck, and several bones from the hands and feet. It was a rare animal in its environment, which is closely reflected by its near absence from the fossil record. In life, the animal was 2 meters long, including the tail, and was a keen hunter of small vertebrates. Possessing the iconic sickle claws synonymous with its family, as well as an array of sharp, pointed teeth, it had all the tools necessary to be a successful predator, and utilized its superior speed to chase down its prey. It is also theorized that once a kill was made by these dinosaurs, they were more than capable of eating and digesting the bones of their catches, leaving no waste for scavengers. Moreover, they themselves were thought to be opportunistic scavengers when food was scarce or if hunts failed. In life, Dromaeosaurus lived in the Campanian stage of the late Cretaceous, where it thrived on the open floodplains and coastlines of Central and Northern North America. Its long legs would have carried it at high speeds across its environment, where it scoured the foliage and beaches for suitable prey items. To the many mammals and reptiles that scurried close to the ground, this dog-sized predator would have been a true nightmare. By far the most famous dromaeosaur, as well as being one of the most famous dinosaurs full stop, Velociraptor is the superstar of its family. Known from a plethora of specimens, many of which are immaculately preserved, and one that even shows the dinosaur locked in combat with a targeted prey animal, Protoceratops, Velociraptor was a native of the Gobi Desert. Contrary to several popular depictions in the media, Velociraptor would have resembled a roadrunner in real life, covered in a layer of feathers, whose long legs and tail would have carried it at high speeds across the desert and scrubland of Central Asia. Velociraptor mongoliensis is the most closely known species, but another, Velociraptor osmolskae, came to light in 2008, discovered in China. Members of the general public without a knowledge of dinosaurs are often surprised to learn that Velociraptor was not the large, hyper-intelligent apex predator it is often portrayed as in the movies, but rather a 2-meter-long, 15-kilogram bird-like animal. While exceedingly deadly to the small dinosaurs and other vertebrates it preyed upon, a lone Velociraptor in life would likely have posed no more of a threat to human beings than modern birds of prey do. These speedy, feathered hunters were thought to have boasted a series of keen senses, with excellent hearing that allowed them to detect frequencies other predators could not. Its reflexes allowed it to dart at high speeds after nimble animals such as small mammals and reptiles, giving it an edge over other carnivores in the region. Debate has persisted for years as to whether or not Velociraptor was a pack hunter or a soloist, but there is actually little evidence to suggest that the former is true. This is not to say that it outright didn't happen, and perhaps somewhere out there is a fossilized troop of pack-hunting dromaeosaurs buried deep beneath the Gobi Desert. Velociraptor mongoliensis, native to Mongolia's Gobi Desert, thrived in a wild sea of sand dunes in the late Cretaceous, where very occasional rivers provided local fauna with water. The region was very arid, with only the most highly adaptable animals capable of thriving here. Velociraptor was one of the most common animals discovered here in the Jadokta Formation, where it is thought to have preyed upon animals as large as the medium-sized ceratopsian Protoceratops. This has been inferred from one of the most famous and most amazing preserved fossils ever discovered, the fighting dinosaurs. In this fossil, a Velociraptor specimen is seen locked in combat with a Protoceratops, with the fight seeming evenly matched. As the Velociraptor attempts to slash at the herbivore with its sharp sickle claws, the Protoceratops snaps at its assailant's limbs with its sharp beak, attempting to defend itself. The pair are believed to have died when a landslide or sand dune collapsed above them, killing them instantly and preserving them in this dramatic pose for millions of years. It remains today one of the most amazing paleontological finds ever. Perhaps the second most famous dromaeosaur, this is the animal that helped paleontologists Robert Bacher and John Ostrom catapult dinosaurs into a new age. It was Bacher's depiction of Ostrom's own find Deinonychus that first showed dinosaurs as quick-moving, agile animals, rather than the sluggish, iguana-like monsters they had initially been represented as. The drawing shows a Deinonychus, albeit still lizard-like, actively running fast across the environment, with a long, outstretched tail, slender legs, and horizontally held stance. This changed science's perception of dinosaurs forever, and henceforth the image of dinosaurs as slow-moving hulks of muscle and bone would disappear. This was nicknamed the First Dinosaur Renaissance, as it resulted in many known species of dinosaur being re-examined in order to depict them in this new, more accurate light. We are arguably living in a second dinosaur renaissance today, with new revolutions in dinosaur integument and color, revolutionizing once more the way we see animals such as Deinonychus. While the fossils first came to light in 1931, Deinonychus in life was an animal of the ancient coastal plains of what is now central North America, where the modern states of Oklahoma, Maryland, and Montana lie. It was a medium to large-sized dromaeosaur, measuring roughly 3.5 meters in length from nose to tail, and was thought to have weighed as much as 73 kilograms when fully grown. Deinonychus is closely associated with the animal that was thought to have been its main prey item, the ornithopod Tenontosaurus. This quadrupedal, long-tailed herbivore was abundant in the Cloverleaf Formation both animals called home, and Deinonychus remains have been found in close proximity to those belonging to Tenontosaurus. As a result, interactions between the two dinosaurs have been well documented in reconstructions and paleoart, with many depictions of Tenontosaurus showing the animal falling victim to a deadly onslaught by a hungry pack of Deinonychus. Pack hunting in Deinonychus would make much more sense than pack hunting in other genera such as Velociraptor, due to the size of the animals they were almost certainly hunting. Tenontosaurus adults could reach a weight of between 1 to 4 tons, making it impossible for a solitary 70-kilogram dinosaur to bring one down alone. If Tenontosaurus was indeed the key prey item of Deinonychus, they almost certainly needed support from members of the same species, making pack hunting here a potential possibility. Deinonychus was most at home in the coastal wetlands and floodplains of the Cloverleaf Formation, where it perhaps fluctuated between open environments and subtropical forests. The environment has been compared to the modern-day Everglades, with vast amounts of fresh water giving way to both forests inland and coastal environments not too far away. As well as Tenontosaurus, Deinonychus lived alongside the heavily armored notosaurid Sauropelta, as well as the colossal apex predator Acrocanthosaurus. While Deinonychus was not the largest carnivore of the region, it was certainly a successful animal that was perfectly adapted to its ecological niche. Microraptor, a strange little dinosaur from the forests of the early Cretaceous of China, is a testament to the incredible diversity of the dromaeosaurs. Where many genera were terrestrial, speedy hunters, Microraptor was an arboreal glider, using 4 well-developed gliding wings on its forelimbs and hind limbs to travel through the woodlands after insects and small vertebrates. Interestingly, recent discoveries point to the idea that Microraptor may have been capable of basic powered flight due to the presence of long primary flight feathers on the wings of its forelimbs. At the tip of the outstretched tail was a diamond-shaped fan of feathers, which would have helped the little dinosaur stay aloft when in the air as it darted through the canopy. Microraptor is also known for its immaculately preserved fossils, which show the dinosaur in its entirety, with easily visible outlines of feathers embedded within the rock. The fossils also show how amazingly small these dromaeosaurs were, measuring just 90 centimeters in length. They were by no means the deadly predators that existed typically within the dromaeosaur family, and were likely quick to flee in the face of the more deadly theropods of their native Yixiang Formation in northern China. Perhaps the most fascinating fact about Microraptor is that we can confidently say that we know the exact color of the animal. Studies on microscopic pigment cells within the dinosaur's remains have indicated that it was an iridescent black all over its body, with hues of green and purple contrasting with the light, much like a modern-day magpie. Iridescent coloring in the modern day helps birds blend in with their surroundings and avoid predation. But such coloration may also have aided in identification, communication, or even waterproofing the dinosaur. From one extreme of oddities to another, Halszka Raptor is one of the only known semi-aquatic dromaeosaurs. One look at this animal in life would most likely convince you that you were looking at a duck or goose, rather than a close relative of Deinonychus, as this tiny, duck-billed, long-necked theropod was thought to have been an adept swimmer. Thriving in the swampy wetlands of Mongolia throughout the Campanian of the late Cretaceous, this small dromaeosaur, no more than 60 centimeters long, is thought to have positioned itself like a modern-day wading bird when it walked, holding its S-shaped neck upright and walking on stilt-like legs. The dinosaur caused a stir in the paleontological community when it was first described in 2017, where it was placed alongside two other genera of strange, highly derived dromaeosaurs, Mahakala and Halszka, also from Cretaceous Mongolia. It is believed that Halszka Raptor spent just as much time on the water's surface as it did on land, using its wings to paddle itself forward, kicking its legs to increase speed. A series of small, backward curved teeth in its beak-like mouth would have allowed it to hunt small aquatic animals such as fish and shellfish, where it possibly dived beneath the surface of the water like a cormorant to make a catch. Modern-day merganser ducks, with their long, serrated bills, offer another good evolutionary comparison, as they dive beneath the surfaces of rivers and lakes after freshwater fish. Other theories have debated this, suggesting that instead of diving after fish, it hunted invertebrates either in murky waters or at night, given the fact that it had exceptional night vision and large eyes. Reconstructions of Halszka Raptor show an animal that closely resembles a duck, and while the animal's coloration is not known, it is often depicted in the bright plumages of white, brown, and blue, with a bright yellow snout akin to that of a mallard duck. The dinosaur was found specifically in the Uka-Tolgod locality of the Jadokta Formation, synonymous with the wetlands rather than dry deserts. Here it lived alongside a whole host of small reptiles and mammals, as well as Alvarezsaurus and small wetland-dwelling birds. From one of the smallest dromaeosaurs to the very largest, Utahraptor was a giant among its kind, thriving between 139 to 134 million years ago in the early Cretaceous of what are now the United States. Much more heavily built than many of the lithe, slender raptors we've met in this video already, Utahraptor measured up to 6 meters in length and weighed between 250 to 350 kilograms, It is thought to have been covered in a layer of feathers just like its smaller cousins, but none have been found yet. Unlike its cousins, however, it is thought to have utilized its forelimbs heavily during hunting, using the claws on its hands as slashing blades to cut through prey items before feeding. It still possessed and used its sickle claws and would still have been capable of delivering deadly blows with them. Due to its size, it was not as fast or agile as its smaller relatives, and therefore was adapted at hunting much larger prey, such as iguanodons and therizinosaurs, that shared ancient Utah with it. Utahraptor is a native of the Cedar Mountain Formation, where it was one of the largest carnivores of the region. Like Deinonychus that we met earlier, it has been theorized that Utahraptor may have been a social animal or even a pack hunter. If true, packs of Utahraptor would have been capable of bringing down prey items as big as sauropods. Utahraptor's habitat consisted of prairies and forests filled with conifers and ferns. The vegetation here would have provided a great deal of cover for the animal to disguise itself while hunting, before springing from the foliage to strike. While Dakotaraptor is one of the most famous dromaeosaur genera to the general public, it may not even be valid. The dinosaur is thought to have inhabited the western reaches of North America, specifically Hell Creek, in the late Cretaceous period. This would make Dakotaraptor one of, if not the very last surviving dromaeosaur dinosaur, as it would have been alive just around the time of the catastrophic KPG meteor impact. The bones, however, may tell a different story. This dromaeosaur, thought to have measured a relatively massive 5.5 meters in length from nose to tail, was discovered in a bone bed consisting of multiple species. This has led to confusion with scientists identifying and describing the genus, as some fossils from the holotype specimen were later reanalyzed, belonging instead to extinct soft-shell turtles. Unfortunately, the Dakotaraptor in question now belongs to a private collector, and so scientific research cannot be undertaken on it. Future studies on the dinosaurs may prove that its bones belong to other species, making it what has become known as a chimera, a fossil animal that in itself is not valid, rather being made up of several valid or undescribed animals. If Dakotaraptor was indeed real, it would have been quite the animal in life. While it was flightless, long flight feathers present on its arms would have given it a close resemblance to modern birds of prey, despite its colossal size of nearly 6 meters in length. Despite the size, Dakotaraptor was relatively slender, unlike Utahraptor, the only known dromaeosaur to have been capable of outgrowing it. Its legs were longer and thinner, and it lacked the overall stocky build of the potentially related giant. Dakotaraptor is known from the iconic Hell Creek Formation, the most famous dinosaur fossil formation known, on account of it being associated with some of the most well-known fossil animals ever discovered. Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops, Pachycephalosaurus, and Ankylosaurus all lived alongside Dakotaraptor, or at least the animals that compose the Dakotaraptor that we know. If the dromaeosaur was an authentic genus, it would have been yet another amazing piece in what is already one of the most spectacular ecosystems ever to evolve. Perhaps only time will tell for certain. Hailing from the late Cretaceous of what is today southern France, we have Pyroraptor, an animal that is thought to likely be a late surviving European representative of the Dromaeosaurs. Living around 70 million years ago, it is only known from one partial fossil, which was discovered in the exposed earth following a forest fire in the region. This would lead to its dramatic name translating to fire thief in English. Pyroraptor is perhaps best known to the general public for its relatively recent appearance in popular media, specifically the 2022 film Jurassic World Dominion. In the film, which features the franchise's first depictions of feathered dinosaurs, the animal is portrayed as a large, semi-aquatic hunter that attempts to attack human beings, thriving both on top of and underneath a sheet of ice. It goes without saying that in reality, Pyroraptor was not built for such a lifestyle. It measured just over 1 meter in length, with only half of that length making up its body and head, and possessed no adaptations that would lead scientists to believe it lived in water at all. Its limbs bore 6-centimeter long claws, which at best may have been suited to helping the animal climb trees and rocks, and not to speed through icy waters. Moreover, Europe in the late Cretaceous was essentially an archipelago of warm, subtropical islands, with Pyroraptor occupying one that would become known as Ibero-Armorica. Alongside the Dromaeosaur lived turtles, snakes, amphibians, lizards, and frogs, with plenty of island-dwelling dinosaurs and giant pterosaurs sharing these strange lands with them. These are not animals that would thrive in any way in cold environments, and the dinosaur is known to have been a denizen of warm floodplains and forests instead. There has been some slight confusion as to where Pyroraptor should be placed on the theropod family tree. While it is likely that the animal is a dromaeosaur, it has also been considered as a member of the family Unenlagidae, a proposed group of dinosaurs who in turn were once considered a subset of dromaeosaurs. Typically, Unenlagiids were taller and more slender than the latter, similar in form and behavior to modern herons and egrets than the swift hunters of the Dromaeosauridae family. As it stands, Pyroraptor is considered to be a member of the Dromaeosauridae family instead. Few dromaeosaurs grew larger than a few meters in length, making animals such as Utahraptor so massively impressive to consider. Dakotaraptor, if a real genus, fits that bill too. One lesser-known giant of the dromaeosaur world was Achillobator, a 5-meter-long predator from the late Cretaceous of the Bayan-Shira Formation of Mongolia. Aptly named Achillobator giganticus, the sole known specimen was heavily built, similar in form to Utahraptor, and is known to have been a skilled hunter of large animals. Its oversized sickle claws, along with its deep jaws filled with sharp teeth, would have been the perfect tools to help it tackle anything from ceratopsians to hadrosaurids. In the late Cretaceous, this section of Mongolia was a lush, subtropical riverine forest and supported a wide variety of dinosaur life. Achillobator may have been the largest carnivore of the area, perhaps with the exception of the tyrannosauroid Electrosaurus. It may have preyed upon the Therizinosaurs, Segnosaurus, and Erlikosaurus, its heavy build a defense against the free-moving, slashing claws of these bipedal herbivores. Achillobator is thought to have launched itself at its prey legs first, aiming the sickle claws at its target with a view to holding the prey down with its body weight. Once the high ground was reached, Achillobator would begin to bite into the animal whilst it was still alive. The wing feathers present on the arms of the large dromaeosaurs are thought to have acted as balancing tools to ensure the predator could stay on top of its victim whilst delivering such blows. Eventually dispatching the target with its huge jaws, it would use bleeding damage and organ failure to its advantage, making it a grisly yet immensely powerful hunter. Another arboreal dromaeosaur that thrived in the ancient Chinese woodlands of the Yixiang Formation, around 123 million years ago, Sinornithosaurus lived in a world that was literally exploding with life. One look up towards the treetops would reveal the shadows of birds and small feathered dinosaurs fluttering in the canopies, with many strange game bird-like theropods occupying the forest floor. Many of these dinosaurs, despite their classifications as theropods, were herbivores or omnivores, more focused on snapping up insects and leaves than hunting down vertebrates. Sinornithosaurus, however, was no such theropod. This dinosaur, despite being no longer than 1 meter from head to tail, was a predator. Like the Microraptor it shared the forests with, Sinornithosaurus was an adept glider, using the claws on its forelimbs to help it shuffle up tree trunks before leaping from canopy branches after birds, small dinosaurs, mammals, and lizards. It may have been small, occupying a very specific predatorial niche, but it thrived doing it. The familiar sickle claws on its hind limbs would have been perfect at dealing with these small animals it fed upon, and the speed attained from gliding through the trees would have been more than enough to catch up with its prey. The dinosaur was once even considered to boast a deadly venomous bite, thanks to its unusually long maxillary teeth resembling fangs that were thought to contain cavities for injecting venom into prey. This, however, has since been disproved, as no direct evidence for venom has been found elsewhere in the teeth. The proposed venom cavities were nothing more than common grooves. Like all dromaeosaurs, Sinornithosaurus is known to have been covered in a layer of feathers that would have been a necessity in helping it glide through the forest canopies, but may have served additional purposes. Its plumage, similar to those of modern birds, may have been adorned in colors and patterns in order to attract mates or communicate with members of the same species. Many birds today, even birds of prey, have brightly colored patches across their bodies. Take the bateleur eagle, for example, draped in impressive red colorations across the face. It is a possibility for many dromaeosaurs that such coloration may have evolved to help them communicate. But until more fossilized pigment cells are discovered, we cannot know for certain. Another victim of artistic license in the Jurassic World movies, Atrociraptor was a 2-meter-long dromaeosaur native to what is today the Horseshoe Canyon Formation in southwestern Alberta, Canada. In reality, this dinosaur, like its cousins, was a gracile, slender hunter of small animals and dinosaurs, much more akin to a modern bird than a movie monster. Again, in Jurassic World Dominion, however, Atrociraptor makes an appearance. Roughly 3 to 4 times the size of their real-life counterparts, the dinosaurs in the movie are featherless, with sinister, blunt faces and little attention to detail when it comes to body form and function. Dromaeosaurs, it would seem, are not their true selves in the eyes of the media. Real-life Atrociraptor would have stalked the estuaries and floodplains of ancient Canada in search of small vertebrates to eat, essentially living the life of a much larger predatory shorebird, perhaps wading through shallow waters on its slender legs to pick at animals washed up by the waves. Its tough claws and sharp teeth would have made short work of prey items as it combed the beaches for food. Atrociraptor was by no means the deadliest predator of Horseshoe Canyon, however, and as it scouted the tidal zones and mudflats, it needed to be aware of approaching large theropods. Albertosaurus, one of the most well-known and impressive tyrannosaurids, was common here and could have posed a serious threat to a little beachcomber. Ending our dromaeosaur safari through the annals of the Cretaceous, we meet Achillobator, perhaps the very last dromaeosaur to exist on planet Earth before the non-avian dinosaurs were wiped out by the horrific end Cretaceous extinction event. Like the possible chimeric Dakotaraptor, Achillobator thrived in the wondrous Hell Creek Formation, alongside some of the most famous animals ever to go extinct. It was a fraction of the size, roughly in line with a Labrador, but we know for a fact it existed, and we know for a fact that it existed here at the very end of the Mesozoic, just as millions upon millions of organisms were thrown into oblivion. There is a chance, given the adaptability and lifestyle of this little carnivore, that some of the very last dinosaurian footprints felt by our planet belonged to Achillobator. For the most part, Acheroraptor would have lived life in Hell Creek relatively unnoticed, picking off small reptiles, mammals, and perhaps baby dinosaurs from the river's edge and wooded areas, while Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops gathered in their vast numbers. Acheroraptor would have been snatching up insects and quietly displaying them to potential mates in the forest clearings. Given its size and speed, it was likely quick enough to outspeed and outmaneuver larger predators, making it a successful little dinosaur. A perfect representation of dromaeosaurs as a whole, perhaps. The dromaeosaurs were an incredibly successful group of dinosaurs, both in terms of their time on planet Earth and their legacy that would succeed it. For almost 100 million years, dromaeosaurs chased, stalked, swam, and even flew their way to success in the plains, forests, deserts, and lakes of our ancient Earth. It's hard to not look at modern birds of prey and see the distant hints of dromaeosaur preserved within them. See for yourself the next time you spot a buzzard or hawk soaring high above your head, or perched on a fence post. These birds give us the best possible insight into what these animals might have looked like in the flesh, which is something remarkably precious after 66 million years of evolutionary separation.